Welcome to Drive the Daf, clear, structured explanation of the daily Daf in 20 minutes. You can even follow in the car.
Taanis Daf is completely given over to stories of Agadata. The Gemara will have two main categories of stories on the Daf. One is the stories about great deeds of tzaddikim. We'll actually begin with some not so great stories about one Tana. A lot of the rest of the Daf will be discussing incidents in which somebody made a fast day or a day of prayer in order to bring rain, and it did not quite work out the way he planned. In the end, we'll get to the special nisim and the stories that happened to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. So the Gemara begins, the last line on Daf Chav Gimel. The Gemara says that Rabbi Yossi bar Avin used to be a Talmud of Rabbi Yossi de Min Yukras. And then he left him and he went to Rav Ashi. Now one day he heard Rav Ashi learning, and Rav Ashi said a halacha that somebody who pulls a fish out of the water on Shabbos, the fish begins drying out. When is he violating the Isser of killing the fish? We're talking about a situation where there's no Isser of trapping, but when was he violating the Isser of killing the fish? Once a circle the size of a sela coin has dried on the skin of the fish will not live. Even if you throw it back in the water, it's going to die, or it's already considered to be dead, and therefore you violate the Isser of shoichet on Shabbos. Now, Rav Yossi bar Avin asked him, why don't you say that this halacha is only true with the dry spot is between his fins, if it's on the chest area between the fins. If it's anywhere else, it doesn't count. It's not necessarily going to be a sign that the fish has to be dead. So the Gemara says that Rav Ashi said to Rav Yossi bar Avin, why don't you say that in the name of Rav Yossi bar Avin? He obviously didn't know he was talking to Rav Yossi bar Avin, and he said you should say that in the name of the person who said it. I know that this halacha was said by Rav Yossi bar Avin. So Rav Yossi bar Avin said, I am he. So Rav Ashi asked him, weren't you always a Talmud of Rav Yossi de Min Yukras? He said yes. He said, so then why did you leave him and come here? He said, because that person, Rav Yossi de Min Yukras, does not have mercy on his own children. He didn't have mercy on his son and didn't have mercy on his daughter. He's certainly not going to have mercy on me. So the Gemara discusses what exactly is the story where he didn't have mercy on his son and the story where he did not have mercy on his daughter. So the Gemara says the story with the son is as follows. One day, Rav Yossi de Min Yukras had hired workers to work in the field, and he was late arriving himself, and he was the one who was bringing the bread, the food for lunch, and he hadn't arrived on time. The workers had worked hard, it was time for lunch, and they were hungry, so they said to the son, we're hungry. So they were sitting under a fig tree, and the son said to the fig tree, give some of your fruit so that my father's workers can eat. And lo and behold, the fig tree gave forth fruit. And they ate and became full. And while all this was happening, Rav Yossi de Min Yukras arrived, and he said, don't be suspicious of me that I was late because I ignored you. I was involved in a mitzvah, and that's why I was late. I was held back. I was working this entire time in the performance of the mitzvah. So the workers said, may Hashem bless you that you should be as full as we are, that your son filled us up, we're good and full. So he said, how did it happen? So they told him the whole story with the fig tree. So the Rav Yossi de Min Yukras said to his son, you who caused your master, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Ki'ilu give fruits before the proper time, you should also be harvested before your proper time, because it was not appropriate for to do that, and that was a statement that his son should die early. And that's where he didn't have mercy on his son. Where did he not have mercy on his daughter? So the Gemara says the story there was that he had a daughter who was very beautiful, and one day he saw a man making a hole in the fence and peeking through to look at his daughter. So he said to him, what are you doing? So he said, Rabbi, I'm not going to be able to marry her, at least I should look at her. I should be able to look at her. So when he said to his daughter, you are causing pain to people who want to see you, go back to your dirt. Return to the dust and don't make people be nichshal, don't make people trip and make mistakes and be over isurim of staring at you. And that's what happened. So this was where he did not have mercy. Now the Gemara's other stories about Rav Yossi de Min Yukras. So first of all, he had a donkey that he used to rent to people. And the custom it was that he would rent the donkey for the day. When the day was over, the renter would put the money for the rental on the donkey's back, and the donkey would walk back to his master, to Rav Yossi de Min Yukras. And if the money was wrong, if it was too much or too little, it would not travel until the correct amount was put on. Once it even happened, and there was an extra pair of sandals, a pair of shoes or something, that was on the back of the donkey, and the donkey refused to move until those sandals were removed. Now there was a story about Elazar Ish Birta. Whenever one of the Gabayit Tzedakah, the people who are in charge of collecting for the poor, whenever they would be inside of him, they would hide. Not he would hide, they would hide from him, because whatever he had, he would give them. And they didn't want him to give away all his money, and therefore they hid from him. So one day they were walking in the marketplace, and he was on the way to the market to get a nedunya, to get a dowry, to buy things for his daughter to be able to use for her wedding. And the Gabbai Tzedakah saw him, and they hid from him, but he spotted them, and he ran after them, and he said, I make you swear, I swear, please, you must tell me what you're collecting for. So he said, we're collecting for the wedding of a Yasam and a Soma, an orphan, and an orphan boy, and a girl. So he said, Ha'avaida, an expression of swearing, an exclamation, Ha'avaida, by the service. They are more important than my daughter. They have nothing, and he gave them everything that he had. And he left over only one little zuz. So he took that zuz and he went and he bought a little bit of wheat that he could afford with the zuz. He came home, took the wheat and he threw it in the wheat storage bin in the granary. And that's it, he went to learn. Now his wife came and she said to the daughter, what did your father bring from the market? What did he bring from your nedunya? So he said, listen, I don't know what he brought, but whatever he brought, he threw it in the wheat bin. That much I saw. So she went to the wheat bin and she couldn't open the door. The wheat had expanded and grown miraculously to such a large amount that it filled up and it blocked the door. So the daughter went to the base medrash. She said to her father, come see what your beloved one, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu, has done for you. So her father said, Ha'avaida, you're not going to have any of that more than anybody else. That is hektish. The poor people will have it. You're one of the poor, you could have as much as them, but not more. Rashi explains anything which was Ma'aseh Nisim, anything which was from a miracle, he did not want to benefit from, because that takes directly away from one's zechusim. Now the Gemara goes into the stories about people who did things to bring rain, and it may or may not have worked. Somewhere says Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, Rabbi Yehuda the Nasi, that is the son of Rabban Gamliel, who was the son of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. This is Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya. So he decreed a fast day because there was no rain, and he decreed a time of tefillah, but the rain did not arrive. So he said, look at what the difference is between Shmuel Hanavi, and Yehuda ben Gamliel, myself, and woe is to the generation that gets stuck with somebody like me as a leader, that I'm unable to bring rain. And he became upset. He was upset, he was disappointed in himself. Well, that upsetness was that was the humbling experience which was required, and that brought the rain. Now, the people of the Nesius, the Nesiim, the political leaders of the generation, once had a situation in which they decreed a fast day, and they did not bother to notify Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish that they had decreed a fast day. Well, the morning of the fast day was already, the fast day was underway. They went and they sent a message to Rabbi Yochanan and to Reish Lakish that today is a fast day. And Reish Lakish said to Rabbi Yochanan, well, we neglected, we did not accept this fast day upon ourselves from yesterday. Usually the halach is that a fast day has to be accepted from before the fast day begins, which is a mincha time the day before, as we've seen earlier in the Masechta. So Rabbi Yochanan said we didn't need to. We are included in the general acceptance of the decree of the Nesiim. We don't have to do our own acceptance. We are dragged along, as it were, with them. Now, in another situation, the Nesiim decreed a fast day, and it did not bring any rain. So Oishia the smallest of the Chevra, quoted a pasuk to describe this. He said, the pasuk says, if the eyes of the generation make a mistake. So he said it's like a kala, like a bride who's still in her father's house, somebody who wants to check her out and see if she's suitable to marry. If her eyes are in good condition, if she has beautiful eyes, you don't have to check the rest of the body. If her eyes, she's not crying, so her eyes are healthy, then the rest of her is healthy as well. However, if her eyes are improper, then something might be wrong with the rest of her. You have to check the rest of her as well. So that's the same situation over here. If you, the leaders, would be proper, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu would send the rain just in your merit. Obviously, since the rain is not being sent, it could be that there's a problem with the rest of the generation as well, but there's definitely a problem with you, the leaders. Well, the people of the Nesiim were not too happy about this, and they wanted to punish Oishia for that. So they sent some men after him, they wrapped a handkerchief around his neck, and they were paining him. So the people of the town wanted to rescue him, and they said, leave him alone, he gives us words of rebuke all the time. And we used to be upset about it also, but then we saw that he's only acting l'shem shamayim, and therefore we let him go, so you should let him go as well. Next story, the Gemara says that Rebbe once decreed a fast day, and rain did not come. So he went before Ilfa, the Talmid Chacham, or some say it was Rabbi Ilfi, and they went to be either Ilfa or Rabbi Ilfi went to be the Chazan. And as soon as they stepped forward and said Mashav Ruach, which means the wind blows, the wind began to blow. And as soon as he said Marle Geshem, the rain began to fall, and they had rain. So Rebbe said to this Chazan, to either Ilfa or to Ilfi, they said, what is your job? What do you do? So they said, I live in a faraway town which has no access to wine, and they have nothing to use for Kiddush or for Havdalah, but I work very hard and I go and I make sure to get wine, and I make Kiddush and Havdalah to be moitzi the entire town so that they can fulfill the mitzvah. Next story, the Gemara says, Rav went up to a certain area and he decreed a fast day and the rain did not fall, didn't work. So somebody went down to be the chazan, he went to lead the tefillos, and again he said Ma'ashuach, and the wind blew, he said Marna Geshem, and the rain fell. So he asked him, what do you do? So he said, I'm a teacher of little children, and I teach rich people's kids and poor people's kids the same. I don't treat them any different one to the other. Anybody can't afford to pay me, I don't take money from them. And I have a special pond full of fish, and I take fish from there, and I use it as a bribe for any kid who doesn't want to come to learn. I bribe him with a piece of fish, and I make sure that he comes to learn. Now Rav Nachman wants to create a fast day, and he did a tefillah, and the rain didn't fall. So he said to take Rav Nachman and throw him off the wall to the ground, and he was disappointed, he was upset, and in that merit again, the rain did fall. Rabba wants to create a fast day, and he was mispal, and the rain didn't fall. So they said to him, well, Rabbi, you aren't able to bring the rain, but Rabbi Yehuda was. Rabbi Yehuda brought the rain. Rav Yehuda brought the rain. And he is obviously greater than you. What's going on? Whenever he would decree a fast day, it would rain right away. So Rabbi answered, he said, what do you think the reason is? What do you want me to do? Do you think the reason is because he was greater than me in Torah learning? I'll show you that it's not true, because Rav Yehuda and his yeshiva, all they were well versed in was the halachos of Nezikin, the rules of the damages. But us, me and our yeshivas, we know all Shisha, Sidrei, Mishnah, we know all of Shas. Now, when Rabbi Yehuda comes to a sugya in Uktzin, a hard one, like for example the sugya of Yados, that is, there are special halachos in fruits and food, which ones they have a special type of tumas eichlin, and the question is, does the stem or the leaf or the peel of those fruits, does it also bring tumah like tumas eichlin? Does the halacha of the food to be tumas eichlin to bring it as well? It's a lengthy sugya which we go through in Chulin, and that's a tough sugya, specifically in the sugya of when it's being crushed for juice. Do the stems and the leaves have a halacha? Same thing applies to olives. So these sugyas, when Rabbi Yehuda would get to them, he would say, oh, this is unclear, we need the halachos of Rav and Shmuel, we need the insights of Rav and Shmuel here. So you see, he wasn't as great as we are. Us, when we give shir in 13 different yeshivas on the subject. So you see, we're clear on these topics. Yet, it's still clear that Rav Yehuda, when he takes off one shoe to start doing a fast day, and the fast days they didn't wear shoes, when he takes off one shoe, the rain starts falling already. Us, we cry and scream the whole day, and the rain doesn't fall. So it's not because of the fact that he was greater scholar than we are in Torah. If it's because of any averis we did, if anybody knows anything we did wrong, please, we would like to know. Please come tell us right away. We would like to fix it, and nobody came forward. So it must be that the reason is that it's the generation, and the leader of the generation can't do much. If the generation itself is unfitting, then it's just the way it is. The Gemara now has another story about Rav Yehuda. The Gemara says that Rav Yehuda once saw two people throwing bread to each other. So he said, well, look at that. People are being so discriminated. They're not treating bread with the right respect. They're treating it cheaply. Obviously, there's plenty of food around. So he gave those two people a look, and instantly there was a hunger, there was a famine in the world. So the Rabbanan said to Rav Kahana Breda Rav Nechunya, who was the Gabbai of Rav Yehuda, he said, you spend a lot of time with him, can you work it out so that he'll pass by the entrance of the marketplace? So we'll see how difficult it is for people, that the hunger is so strong, maybe he'll find a way to repeal this situation that he created by looking at those people and creating a state of famine in the world. So he worked it out, he came and he passed by and he saw there was a big crowd. So he asked, what's the big crowd? So they're all trying to buy a container of dates which may go on sale soon. Everybody's clamoring to be the one to buy it. Everybody's hungry. So he said, okay, I see there's a great famine in the world. So he said to his servant, the Gabbai, so he said, take off my shoe. So let's begin tefillas and fasting. So as soon as he took off one shoe, it started to pour. He wanted to take off the other shoe, and Eliyahu came and said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you take off the other shoe, I'm going to end up destroying the world. You're making me change nature too much, the world will become destroyed, as it were. So the Gemara says that Rav Mari, the grandson of Shmuel, said, on that day I was standing at the banks of the river Papa, and I saw a bunch of malachim that were dressed, that appeared to be like sailors on a ship. They were loading up a ship with sand, and then they sailed the ship into a port, and it was filled with flour, and that was enough flour for everybody to get food, and that would take away the hunger, it would take away the famine. And I told them, don't take it, this is maisenisim, this is miraculous flour, wait until it comes naturally, you don't want to take miraculous flour. And sure enough, the next day, ships came from the town of Parzina filled with wheat, and there was no need for that miraculous flour. Now the Gemara relates that Rava went up to Hagrunya, and he decreed a fast day, and rain didn't fall. So he said to them, spend the night here, in your fast throughout the night. And in the morning he said to them, did anybody have a particular dream? So Rabbi Lezer from Hagrunya said, yeah, I had a dream. In my dream I was reading out the following message. It said, Shalom, good greetings to the good rabbi who does good things for others, from the one who does good to his people. Right? Shalom tav l'rav tav merivan tav de metuve metiv la'ame. So said Rava, you see from this that this is a time of Nes Ratzon. It's a good time to be mispalel, and they all were standing in tefillah together, and the rain did fall. Now, on the subject of Rava, the Gemara has another story here. The Gemara says that there was a certain person who was obligated. He was decreed that he needs to get malchus, he needs to be whipped, and that was the decree which he received in the Beis of Rava. And the reason for it was that he had married a kusis, and Rava's Beis Din whipped him, but unfortunately he died. Now, the news of this incident came to Shavor Malka, the king of the area, and he wanted to do something to Rava about it. He wanted to hold him accountable for it. Now, Shavor Malka's mother was called Ifra Hormiz. That's a name which comes from the shade, the demon named Hormiz, because she had beauty that comes from the shadim. So she said to her son, who was the king, don't do anything with the Jews. Anything they ask for from Shemayim, they get. So he said, how do you know? So she said, because if they ask for rain, they get the rain right away. So the king didn't accept that. He said, maybe they they asked for rain right when it was about to rain anyway. How do you know that has anything to do with this? So Gemara says, he said, let's see them ask for rain in the middle of the summer. So that time was the middle of Tammuz, it was in the middle of the summer. So they said, let's see them bring rain now. So if Hormiz sent a message to Rava, they want to save yourself, pray very strongly and get rain now. So Rava was mispal and rain did not fall. Then Rava said, Rabban Shalom quoted a pasuk, Elohim Ba'oznenu Shemanu Avesenu Sipru Lanu Poel Pa'alta V'imei B'imei Kedem, from Tehillim. He said that with our ears we have heard, and our fathers have told us about the great things that you did in their days. Well, we haven't seen it in our own eyes, but we need this nace to happen to us now. And the rain began to fall, and it fell so much that it filled up the drain pipes, so that streams of water flowed from the houses of Tzipori to the Tigris River, to the Chidekel. So Rava's father appeared to him in a dream, and he said, you have created too much trouble in Shemayim. You have made them do too much against the way of nature, and the Shadim have been given permission to harm you. Change where you sleep. So he slept somewhere else that night. In the morning, the bed where he usually slept was filled with stab marks of knives, because the demons had been informed where he usually sleeps, but not where he was sleeping at that time. Now there's another story. The Gemara says that Rav Papa decreed a fast day, and rain did not fall, so he became sick. He was not able to fast anymore. So he ate a spoonful of grits, and it was mispalo, but the rain didn't fall. So Rav Nachman said to him in a humiliating way, he said, maybe eat another spoonful of grits on your fast day. Maybe that'll help. But in that embarrassment, and in that chalisha sadas, and that disappointment that he received from Rav Nachman, that was enough to cause the rain to fall. Now the Gemara relates stories of Rav Chanina ben Dosa. The Gemara says Rav Chanina ben Dosa was walking on the way, and it was raining. So he said, Rabbeinu Shalom, everybody's happy with the rain, but only I'm upset because I'm stuck here on the road. So the rain stopped. When he got to his house, he said, Rabbeinu Shalom, the entire world is now in pain because there's no rain, but I'm here in my house. I'm happy because I'm home. So the rain then began to fall again. So he was able to make the rain stop and start at will. So the Gemara says, look, the tefillos of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur cannot do anything against the tefillos of Chanina ben Daisa, because we learned in the Mishnah that the Kohen Hagadol specifically said in the outer room of the Beis Hamikdash, he said a specific tefillah. He said, and we have a quote here from Ravin bar Ada and Rava bar Ada, both saying the name of Rabbi Yehuda. Tefillah that he said was Yiratzim milfanecha Hashem Lakeinu shetehei hashana hazu geshuma ushchuna. It should be rainy and hot. So Gemara interrupts. Gemara says, why do we want it to be hot? Gemara says, no, what we mean is that if it's hot, it should be a humid heat, so that it shouldn't dry anything out. But the rest of what he said was, don't listen to the prayers of the people who travel on the road, that they don't want rain. So the Kohen Gadol specifically asked, don't listen to them, but that tefillah wasn't able to stand up against the tefillah of Rav Chanina ben Daisa. When he was traveling on the road, Hashem listened to his tefillah and made the rain stop until he got home. So now Rav Acha, the son of Rava, would finish off the name of Rav Yehuda. The rest of the tefillah was, let the rulership not pass from the house of Yehuda, and let your people Yisrael not need to ask each other for money and not ask anybody else for money. Let them be supported of their own accord. More about Rav Chanina ben Daisa, the Gemara says, every day a baskol, an echo voice comes out from Shemayim and says the entire world is fed only in the merit of Chanina ben Daisa, my son, and Chanina himself, all he needs is a kav, a measure of karab, cheruvim, from one Friday to the next Friday.
Drive the Daf is a project of the Grand Woodlands Shul and is presented by Rabbi Yitzchak Landa. Find us on YouTube or subscribe to daily emails by emailing drivethedaf@gmail.com.